I'm a toxicologist. I work in the food area, and most specifically, I work on chemical contaminants in foods, both human-derived and those that occur naturally. And and ultimately, what I do is assess the safety and risk of the presence of these contaminants in food. Well, I think big data, and I've been dealing with big data for many, many years. The difference for me now is our computational power that I didn't have when I first started out. So we're able to analyze large data sets in a way we were not able to do before. And so before we would get fairly straightforward, simple answers. Now the answers are much more complex because we have a lot more data to deal with. And our ability to interpret that data is therefore a lot more difficult. It's a double-edged sword, okay? You have a lot more information. You have a lot more information that's readily available to anybody's fingertips. They just can go right online. And so that's a good thing, and it's not. Sometimes it can be a bad thing because people read many things on the internet and they accept them as fact. And you'll hear the expression, well, it must be factual because I found it on the internet. The problem is there's good data and there's bad data. And the internet doesn't really tell you that. And it's, unless you have the appropriate training and expertise, most lay people can't look at something like that on the internet and really truly understand, well, am I reading, is this really factual? Is this something based on good data? Or is it based on bad data? Is it based on bad interpretation? That's the downside. Oh, sure. I mean, that's the big downside, one of them. That accumulating great quantities of data. Well, data is not of the same quality, so you've got to make sure you screen the data so that you have good data, and you have data that is marginal, and then you have data that's wrong. Okay, so that makes our job, and like as a risk assessor, much more difficult. But the upside is that because we have more data, based on better science, we can provide a better answer that's more certain. So it's like any technology; it has its upsides and it has its downsides. You're never going to eliminate bias. Humans are inherently biased. That's not a bad thing. Again, there are good biases and there are bad biases. I mean, people who feel strongly and passionate about anything, well, that's a bias, okay? Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can have its downside if the bias is used in a way where you knowingly misrepresent a set of data. That's, to me, what I would call bad bias.